Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Real Talk About Feminism. I'm Mackenzie.
And I'm Haley, and this week we are doing episode 16, and we're going to be discussing the stigmas associated with breastfeeding in public.
And I know we've talked about this together several times. We've had multiple conversations about it. So we have been looking forward all week to discussing this.
Yeah, and I mean, not that we've ever had kids or ever had to breastfeed, but it's a big societal issue. So it's something that we feel like we should talk about, especially because what we're going to highlight at the beginning, it's kind of an incident that happened in our
Mhm.
hometown. So we feel like we
Very
should talk
close
about
to
it.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the feminist highlight first, and then we'll get into the bulk of what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, today we're highlighting Mindy Kaling. And I'm sure if you're an Office fan, you know exactly who she is.
Yes.
So there's a lot more to her career than working on The Office, but I'm just going to highlight her nominations for her Emmys. So just for The Office, she was nominated for 6 Emmys 6 separate times. So she was nominated 3 times as a co executive producer for The Office, 1 time as a writer, and 2 times as a producer. And when I first started watching The Office, I didn't realize that she had actually written many of the episodes. And some of my favorite episodes are the ones that she's written. So it's just
Yeah.
really cool that in a male dominated field, she was a writer, an actress, and a producer.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I was actually listening to Office Ladies podcast.
I love Office Ladies.
Yeah, and like they go through like every episode
Hmm.
of the show, and it's super fun, and they give the behind the scenes. But I didn't know that either, and that Mindy Kaling was one of the writers, and she acted. So like, woman of many hats, I will just say.
Yes, totally. And she has a baby too. I think she's like 2 now, but she does have a kid too. So pretty cool. She's very well rounded and very accomplished.
Well, that's so cool. Yeah, we love Mindy Kaling. We think she's so funny. And
She is.
she does play a lot of roles. Like I have only really seen her in The Office, and then I saw her, I think she was in like Ocean's 8, right? Have you ever
Yeah.
seen
I saw half of it,
that?
but I
Okay.
do think she was in there.
Yeah, and then like that one like movie about time, like the kids movie. I don't know what it's called,
Wrinkle
but
in Time.
A Wrinkle in
Haven't seen that
Time.
either.
Yeah, but I saw her in that a little bit, and she's a really good actress. So
She is.
awesome.
Yeah. Today, we, as mentioned, are talking about breastfeeding in public and some of the stigma surrounding it. And I don't understand why this is so stigmatized because it's a very natural thing.
Right.
And I think about like way in the future when I have kids and how I'm going to be breastfeeding because that's something that's very important to me. And I'm trying to take stories that I've heard and like stories from our mom and like women that we've talked to who've breastfed. And I've observed like how different it was even 10 years ago than it is today, which is very cool. I feel like we have it's still stigmatized, but we are lucky to be able for it to be more accepted. And
Right.
especially like 10 years when we both have kids, most likely it'll be way more accepted. Still stigmatized, but we are moving forward.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it's kind of disheartening to see articles like the one we're about to talk about,
Hmm. It
but
is.
hopefully in the future, there's less of a stigma around it.
The article we're going to be referencing today and discussing, we'll put the link in the show notes, but it's describing an incident that happened earlier this year. And to give a little bit of background, so I played volleyball in high school, and our younger sister, who's 16, she plays volleyball as well.
And I
So
played volleyball in eighth grade.
you did. No, we actually played in a few tournaments together. There was one tournament. It was a grass tournament, so it was outside on the grass. And you had 3 people on a team, so it was me and Haley, and then well, she's both of our friends, but I went to school with her,
Hmm.
and she is super nice, and she's like, "Yeah, it'd be fun to play." Like we had played together before, and she's the nicest person ever. And the whole time, like Haley and I were just fighting and bickering and like, no, you get the ball, you weren't there on time, blah blah blah. And like she was just like, it's okay guys, it's fine. And like
I
I
felt
still
really
feel
bad.
so bad about it, but it's a funny memory.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, like, Mackenzie, she got super competitive with volleyball. Our younger sister got super competitive, and she is super competitive.
She's really good.
I was never that great, so I stopped playing in 8th grade, and I became a runner. But
You know what though? You were good. You just didn't have the passion for it like me and Sadie did. But like you're athletic.
to be
You were able to
honest,
play.
I have, so for anyone who doesn't know, I have really, really bad eyesight. And so I was honestly just terrified 24/7 of getting hit in the face because I can't see very well.
I
So
know. I don't remember. Did you ever wear your glasses?
I had contacts, but
Oh, you
still,
had
even with my
contacts. Okay.
contacts, like, I can't really see that well.
Yeah, you're legally blind without them.
Yeah. But anyway, so kind of why I was going into that little tangent was, so I never got really competitive, but Mackenzie did, and Sadie, our younger sister. And so when you're really competitive, if any of you guys know in the volleyball world, then there's like big tournaments, and there's like junior national qualifiers. I think that's what they're
hmm
called.
Yeah, so I mean, like with any sport, but this tournament is called Crossroads and it's hosted in Denver by a local club in the Denver metro area.
Mhm.
And it's every single spring. And there's all sorts of teams that come from all over the country to compete. And it is a national junior qualifier. So it's a huge tournament. And you come to this tournament to qualify for nationals, basically. So it's a
Yeah.
huge deal. So the article, like I mentioned, we'll link it, but Sadie had played in Crossroads this year and we weren't able to go because of COVID.
Mhm.
So that really stinks because it's fun. They have like all sorts of like little shops and vendors, food. It's really fun. And um, that was in March. So fast forward to May, end of April, I had gone to one of her tournaments and my mom was on her phone. She was on the news and read this article about the incident that had happened. So, just to sum it up, there was a coach from Utah, and she was driving up to meet her team in Denver because they were already here. She had a 4 month old baby that was breastfeeding, 4 months old. And the officials at the tournament said she was not allowed to come in with her baby because the baby was under 16. They weren't allowing anyone under 16. And she
Because
kept
of
telling,
COVID.
because of COVID, which I understand, but this makes no sense to me.
Right.
She kept telling them, I'm breastfeeding. The baby's 4 months old. Like, he has to eat. I can't be away from him or her. I'm not sure. But they would not let her in. So she literally sat outside and FaceTimed the assistant coach and watched her team play that way. She's the head coach, by the way. So that happened twice, two separate weekends in the younger age group and the older age group.
With two different people or the
Two
same
different
person?
people. Yep,
Okay.
two different people. So to me, like, Haley, you weren't in the car. It was like my whole family, and then Haley, you were still at school. But we had a long conversation about why we were so mad about that and like why it was like really triggering all of us because it shows a couple things, well, many things that are wrong with our society and
Right.
with working women, breastfeeding women, and like women and motherhood just in general.
Yeah, I think it's honestly very detrimental just because, like, there's it's all high school aged girls, right, that are
hmm
playing.
Yeah.
And so all these high school aged girls are seeing, like, oh, well, my coach isn't allowed to come in because she's breastfeeding her baby.
hmm
So, like, that associates, like, oh, if you're a mother, you can't work at the same time. Like, what does that mean? Like, it just it's not a good look.
Yeah, it really shows how society treats working mothers and
Mhm.
working breastfeeding mothers because it's incredibly difficult. Like, I'm sure that was not ideally how she wanted to coach this huge tournament, but she made it happen because it's her job and she is obviously showing that she can balance both very well. So
Right.
it's really upsetting. I feel very bad for her. But we really wanted to focus on the stigma about breastfeeding in public. That is what we wanted to take away from this article and this incident that happened.
So, before we move on to our next little point, the article that we are going to put in the show notes, it does talk about how USA Volleyball ended up cutting ties with Colorado Crossroads. And so
Hmm.
now that big tournament that is always in Denver every year is no longer a national qualifier.
Right. It's still happening, but it's not a national qualifier. So, like, what's the point of even going?
Right. So, I mean, that could be a step in a good direction of like, oh, we're cutting ties with you because you didn't allow these breastfeeding women. But our sister, who was actually playing in the tournament, she said that she thought it was just a way for USA Volleyball to kind of save face and avoid the incident. So that was just kind of the outcome of that situation before we move
Hmm.
on. And you can
Thank
read
you.
more. Yeah, you can read more about what all happened when we
Hmm.
link that article. But
Yeah. And one point I want to make before we move on to it might just be us. I'm not sure. But, like, does that make sense to anyone else to not let a 4 month old breastfeeding baby come in, even though they are under 16? Like, please let us know because I feel like it's very weird. And I don't know why they couldn't bend the rules for these two women who were coaching teams. I really don't understand. So let us know if you think that makes sense.
well, along with that, I don't even know why it's a question. Because if I
I
saw
don't
a
either.
woman with a 4-month-old baby, that is so young. Like, the baby can't even walk. So, like, if I saw a woman with a baby that can't even walk, my first thought would not be like, oh, that baby is under 16. They can't be in here. Like,
Right.
obviously, they can't even walk. Like, I don't
And
know.
what is she supposed to do? Leave the baby outside?
Right. Like, abandon your baby and get
Right,
arrested.
it puts her in
Okay.
a really hard place. So, just very unfortunate, and it really does suck, like, it happened in our hometown
Yeah.
and to a place that, like, we've been for many years, so
Right, yeah, we go every year and it's fun. Like it's a great tournament and
mhm,
it just really sucks that they had to just come at or target these women just cuz they're
mhm,
breastfeeding and also trying to work. So,
right,
um going along with that kind of like um women who are breastfeeding and trying to work, there was, and we'll put the link to this little study in the show notes as well, but there was a survey that was done to kind of evaluate the breastfeeding stigma. And there was 774 responses from expectant mothers, and they were between the ages of 18 and 40. And these are all women in the US. So they did a survey, and it came up that more than 75% of the women that responded to their survey said that they expected to breastfeed after returning to work. 75%. And not
mhm,
everyone chooses to breastfeed. There's different reasons why not. I'm not an expert because I've never had a kid, but I know that there are reasons. So 75% said that they expected to breastfeed after returning to work. However, 49% said that they were concerned that breastfeeding at work could negatively impact their career growth. And 47% said the need to breast pump at work had made them consider a job or career change. Almost 35% said that they had experienced a negative interaction with a colleague because of breastfeeding or pumping. So I think that study is interesting and kind of speaks for itself that obviously a lot of women are kind of living in fear that the need to pump while they're at work or them choosing to breastfeed their child and going back to work, they're afraid that that's going to negatively impact their career. And when you think about it, like when you're breastfeeding, like you do have to take breaks to pump or feed your child, or else, like I'm pretty sure can't your like breasts explode? Like that's kind of
yeah,
dramatic, but
you have to, I think it's, like, every couple hours at least.
yeah. I mean, I wish I wish we knew, but
I really do too.
but like that, I mean, that's just a normal thing. Like if because I'm pretty sure also like if you wait for too long, like you could get infections and
Mhm,
or like there's a lot of things that could happen and I'm sure it's painful.
yeah,
And so that's sad that women who want to be mothers but also want to go back to work they are afraid that them having to take a little break to pump is going to affect their job. That sucks. So,
So in my working experience, in all the places I've worked, there's only been one woman that I've known that has had to pump, and that was actively breastfeeding when after she had her baby. So I've worked in the same organization for many, I'm only 21, but for like basically my whole work career,
mhm,
but just different agencies within that umbrella organization, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So I really like it. It's very inclusive, very accepting. And so I'm not surprised that like I've never really run into this issue. But she it was a small office, but she would have to take breaks every 1.5 to 2 hours. And we designated a closet for her to go pump in.
Oh,
So she
wow.
felt safe. Yeah. And it locked. So, like, she had the key. She felt completely comfortable in there. And like I remember sometimes I was like, she's been in there a while, like she has a lot to do, like I know she's busy, but and like now I kind of feel bad because I have no idea what that's like, maybe
Right.
she was just taking a break because there's a lot going on after you have a baby.
Mhm.
But we did make sure that she had a nice safe space for her to pump, but she pumped for a while. And
Yeah.
I know that it was a big stressor for her because she was busy and she had her work life to attend to, but like she also had to take care of herself.
Right, and I'm sure that, like, she felt kind of bad, like, it's not like she
Mhm.
wants to take a break every hour
No.
and a half, like, and especially because she is busy and she did have a lot going on, like, I'm sure she felt bad and felt like there was people that were probably thinking like, "Oh, she's been in there for a while, like, what is she doing in there?" Even though she's just pumping, you know?
Right.
Like,
And like I said, everyone was very accepting and open to her pumping and breastfeeding. So it was great. Like it wasn't a bad experience, but I'm sure she did have times like that where she was even more stressed out because of this.
right. Well, so kind of switching gears, um, and not just focusing on breastfeeding mothers who work.
Hmm.
We were just wanting to talk a little bit about the stigmas with just breastfeeding in public in general.
Right.
And when we were doing our planning for this episode, we were talking about the fact that like we don't have any experience with that because we've never had kids. But our mom, who we think is a beautiful goddess,
Yes.
and we look up to her so much. She has had 4 kids, 4 girls. So it's us 2 are the oldest, then we have 2 younger sisters. Um, so we decided it would be nice to get a perspective of someone who has had to breastfeed in public.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to play a little interview that we did with her. So we're just going to listen to that and then we'll discuss it after. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Haley.
So we wanted to ask you because for this episode we're talking about the stigmas with breastfeeding in public. So we just wanted to ask you if you had any experiences where you felt shame for breastfeeding in public.
So I mean, when Kenzie was born, so 21 years ago, um, it was considered good to breastfeed, but definitely not considered okay to breastfeed in public. Um, and when she was just a tiny baby, I remember sitting in, like, if we were out at a store, sitting in dressing rooms or sitting in bathrooms, nursing her because it wasn't really okay to nurse in public. And then we were, I think we were at a restaurant at one point, and Kenzie was hungry, and I didn't want to go sit in the bathroom at the restaurant. Like, I wanted to be with the rest of the family. We had some family in town. And so I just decided to stay at the table and nurse right there at the table. And of course, I covered up and put a blanket on and was very modest about it. But it's a very natural thing. And I decided to not really care if people were going to shame me. I definitely got a lot of dirty looks, a lot of weird looks. I don't remember any supportive looks at all. But I just decided I didn't care because they were my babies and they were going to eat.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like, because it is a natural thing.
Mm-hmm. It is. In fact, by the time Natalie was born and I was nursing her, I remember being at Old Navy shopping with you guys because Kenzie was 8 and you were 7, almost 7. And we had to go back to school shopping or something. And we were at Old Navy and I put Natalie in the front pack and put a blanket over her and nursed her while I shopped. Oh. I mean, I truly did not care if I got shamed at that point.
Well, at that point, you had 4 daughters, so.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing your experiences. That's honestly crazy, but I'm sure that even now, I hope that times have changed more, but we still see like public shaming happen to breastfeeding mothers. So,
which makes me really sad because that's what our bodies are meant to do as moms. Mm-hmm. I mean, and some women can't breastfeed and that's totally fine, but yeah, that's the natural order of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like why should you shame people?
Right, especially if you're being modest. Like I was, I never like flipped a boob out and, flashed everyone. But I mean, there were times like I remember in church sitting in the pews, not wanting to take the babies out because there was a good talk or something, mm-hmm. or there was a song that I wanted to listen to, and covering up and nursing in the pew at church. And I definitely did not get any looks because the bishopric would not look at me.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I was modest.
That's so funny. Well, thanks for giving us your advice. Me and Ken's obviously have not had kids and we've never had to breastfeed in public, so we don't know. But now we have an expert opinion, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so a few things that I was thinking about when I was listening to that, and then also, okay, I'll start off with she added something on afterwards, and she said that when she was in the restaurant and she wanted to be with the family, but you were hungry, and she said she looked at Dad and she was like, I don't want to go sit on the bathroom floor and go feed Ken's. And he was like, then don't, like, just stay here, like it's not that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. And so she covered up and she fed you at the table, and she said the waiter came over and was going to take their orders, and he was so uncomfortable that he wouldn't even look at Mom. Like he looked at Dad. And I don't know if he was trying to be rude, but she was just saying like he was so uncomfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just don't get that.
I don't either. Like, at least look at her. You don't have to look at the baby or under her head. I mean, you shouldn't anyway,
Right.
But like, at least be respectful. She's still a person.
Well, and the thing that really, really just, I'm like baffled. If we want, like, I'm so confused. She had a blanket on.
Yeah.
Like she said, a quoter. It's not like she flipped a boob out. Like, she covered up. So that's why I'm so confused. Like, I'm like, is it uncomfortable to think about what is like to think about a mother feeding her child? I don't know.
Well, you mentioned in the interview, but I do hope that now, and even when we have children and when our kids have kids, like, it's much better and more widely accepted. And I know Mom was saying, like, when she was feeding Nat in the cart at Old Navy, that was 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And I think it was a little more accepted then. Like, I don't think she would have done that when I was a baby. Mm-hmm. Because she definitely, like, people probably would have said something to her.
Right. Yeah, no. They totally would have. And I just think that's sad. And I hope that, I don't know, it really just confuses me because it is a natural thing. And it's not like someone's just like out there. I mean, for me, I don't care if someone isn't covered up.
I don't either.
Like, I don't care. But I can understand, like, if you're in public and if someone is uncomfortable by that, just like putting a little blanket over. But still, I don't think it's a big deal because it's a natural thing. But,
Mhm.
whatever, I'll preface that. But I don't know. I just I don't get being uncomfortable like with the fact that a woman is feeding her child in public. Like you shouldn't have to go to a separate room to do it. Maybe if you're at work, and you're pumping, like that's a different thing. But like if
Mhm.
you're out and about and your baby needs to eat, what do we do when we're hungry? We eat.
Right.
So like it shouldn't be this like taboo thing, and it's sad to me that it is.
Yeah. If you are a breastfeeding mom or have breastfed, please let us know your experience. We'd love to like maybe mention it in the next episode just to kind of touch back. If you like if anyone was ever like explicitly rude to you or like said something while you were breastfeeding in public, please let us know. Like we want to know that kind of stuff because like Haley said, like we don't have kids, we've never breastfed. But like I really applaud all of you mothers out there who breastfeed in public and sacrifice your body and other things for your baby.
Yeah, you guys are definitely so strong, and we do applaud you, and we see you as warriors and goddesses and superheroes.
Yeah, and I can't wait to breastfeed when that time comes. Like I'm actually excited.
Yeah. I mean, you have your IUD now, so that's never gonna happen.
Well, yeah. That's why I keep saying in the far future.
Right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I can't believe it's already episode 16. It's kind of
It's just
exciting.
crazy.
So for all of you guys who are listening right now on Spotify or Podbean or anything else that we have audio on Google Podcasts, um, remember that we are on YouTube now.
Mhm.
So our handle on YouTube is Real Talk About Feminism Podcast. So you have to type in podcast at the end and it'll pop right up. So subscribe to that channel and then you can watch the video of us and listen because it's just kind of fun to see our
It is
faces.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun. Like see the faces behind the podcast. And I
Yeah.
know there's a couple podcasts that I listen to when I'm driving to work, but I also watch as well. And it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, like when you're getting ready, it's just kind of fun to have on in the
Yeah,
background.
exactly.
And I don't know if you feel this way, but I kind of feel like now that we're recording, even though we aren't seeing our listeners, I feel like we're kind of connecting more personally with them, even though we don't see them.
Yeah, I think that too.
It's just kind of funny,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is super fun. We've had a great time, and it's only our second week recording our video podcast now. So make sure to go to our channel, Real Talk About Feminism Podcast, and subscribe to that. And then, as always, our Instagram is Real Talk About Feminism, and we'll be posting some updates on there week by week. And we hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yay, bye. See you next week.